FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the award-winning show, The Morning Watch, on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, in Jamaica, is there a fear of, or do we just don't care for marriage? And in second watch, the Bible is still the book for me. For our social media question, we ask, which do you prefer and why? A hard copy Bible or the electronic version? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp, 876-9973-125, using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your response later on the program, but first, as I quote.
All right, today's I quote says, "Leap and the net will appear." And this one is from John Burroughs.
Interesting I quote.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning.
The first watch will be back after this break.
Will that be cash or card? Card. You have a supermarket card from Flow too?
Yes. It's just like Flow paying for my groceries.
Sign up for Yard and Road for only $6,300 plus GCT. And you too can get a $10,000 supermarket card. Get Yard and Road, the plan that pays you back. Conditions apply.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm Stokeley Marshall. Now, marriage rates in Jamaica have been declining for many years, or at least for some years, while divorce rates have been increasing. In fact, a simple internet search will show, for example, that in 2018, there were 16,718 marriages that were registered, and it reads a 4.8% decrease from 2017. And this is just based on an AI overview. Now, Why is it that marriages appear to be on the decline? Is it that persons are not being cultured or prepared as couples, individuals for marriage? Well, we have as a guest this morning to look at and consider this very important topic, someone who is very well known. His name is Dr. Barrington Davidson. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Family Life Ministries. He's also a marriage and family therapist. Good morning, Dr. Davidson.
Stokeley.
Good morning, sir. Now, first of all, sir, what is marriage?
Could you repeat that?
For the benefit of those listening, because we don't want to assume anything, what is marriage?
Marriage is the foundation for a healthy family. It is the cornerstone on which families are built. The first time that marriage was ever mentioned in the Bible, we see it in the last two verses of Genesis chapter 2, where God says, "For this cause shall a man leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife, and the two becoming one." And what is important about that is that this leaving is not about abandoning your family or your parents, but it's about prioritizing, making a priority these two people who have decided that they're committing themselves together to raise a family, bring children into the world, and to nurture, protect, and care for them in such a way that they will also do the same when they get big. And what we have discovered is that in countries or in places where marriages are strong, families are also strong. And when families are strong, a nation is also strong. And so marriage is the cornerstone for any strong, healthy family, which is then also the cornerstone for any strong church, any strong nation, and so marriage is crucial. But like everything else, if you're going to make it work, you're going to have to understand what is it that we're required to make it work. One of the things that I've recognized is that marriage is more about giving than it is about getting. And a lot of people are getting married, their focus is about the getting, not about the giving. And if that is the situation, they're going to have problems. Because if you have two people whose focus is on giving to each other, then they both are going to end up getting from each other. And one of the greatest things is when a couple, when they're working, they're trying to outgive each other. And this is really the key, I believe, for any success for a healthy, fulfilling marriage. The focus has to be on the giving, not on the getting.
Interesting. So, Dr. Davidson, do you think that there is a fear of marriage, or is it that persons just don't care to marry?
Okay. One of the challenges we have, particularly in Jamaica, is that we have a history where marriage really was never encouraged. Remember now, the majority of us are descendants of slaves. Slaves were never encouraged to get married. As a result, we have a society where 86% of our children are born out of wedlock. So the families in Jamaica are certainly not a nuclear married family. In fact, so much so that we define nuclear family in Jamaica not as husband-wife children like Europe and North America does. We define nuclear family as mother, father, and children because of the absence. Because marriage is not something that is common. It is not the normal, natural thing for Jamaicans. And so we're starting at a place now where marriage is not something that most of our children are growing up into. And if you really want to really have a healthy marriage, I believe the starting point should be where you have observed it. And so most people are not observing that. And that's the reason why premarital counseling becomes so crucial, because most individuals growing up in families in Jamaica are not growing up where they're observing a marriage. Another problem is that many of the marriages that exist where children are growing up into are very unattractive, extremely unattractive, because a number of these people who are married, they themselves they didn't grow up in marriages, in a family where marriage existed, so they didn't have anything to say, okay, this is what it should be like. And so they themselves are started off at a major, major disadvantage. And so we have in Jamaica right now a lot of young people who have grown up in marriages, and people, for instance, even in the church, grow up in marriages, but they are finding marriages very unattractive, very unattractive. They see their parents quarreling a lot, fussing, conflict. They recognize that their father has affairs. There's so many things going on that makes them see marriage as really something that they wouldn't desire. And then the church seems to have promoted marriage on the basis of trying to make sure you don't fornicate. So in order not to fornicate, don't get married. So the understanding of it's better to marry than to burn, they understand it to mean it's better to marry than to fornicate. And that's how they understand it based on how they hear the church present it. And so they're saying, well, if that is all about, then when I see my parents saying they didn't fornicate, they married, but look at this awful relationship, quarrel, the fuss, the conflict. So marriage has become extremely unattractive for many of the folks who are even growing up in it. And so they're saying, no, I don't want this, right? That's the reason why we in Family Life Ministries decided to really make sure that we develop a very, very effective, efficient premarital counseling program. I've been in premarital counseling.
Dr. Davidson, if I could interject for a moment, I was speaking with someone. I was speaking with someone recently who said it should not be just premarital counseling, it should be pre-relationship counseling. Because by the time they get to the premarital counseling stage, they have made up their minds already to get married, so they go through the formalities of premarital counseling. They probably need counseling way before that. Any comments, Dr. Davis?
I'm in total agreement with you on that. In fact, we have changed it in recent times to talk about pre-engagement counseling.
Pre-engagement counseling.
Yes, that's what we have been promoting. And I tell you why. We have had a situation once where a couple, the way we do premarital work, it is not guaranteed that you're going to end up marrying. In fact, 30% of the people who I do premarital counseling with never ever get married. They break up during the premarital counseling. We had a situation where a wedding was planned, invitations were sent out, a massive wedding, and they had to call it off because after the third or the fourth session in the premarital, the couple agreed that it never made sense, that their marriage wouldn't work.
It would be a
so that happens frequently in the counseling.
Dr. Davidson, only because of time. Hold that thought, please. We're going to continue, but after the break, listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on The Morning Walk.
Do more on the go. Discover a new and convenient way to send money abroad with the GK1 app. Download GK1 from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. Send with Western Union today. The time by Grace Kennedy Remittance is
7:15.
What are your financial goals? Consider who you are and where you want to be. Do you want to open your own business? Do you want to own a home? Invest in properties? Go back to school? Send your children to school? Then you have to save. But first, you have to have a budget. This financial literacy tip was brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy.
International presents Breaking Marriage 2025, Saturday, March 1 at Maple New Testament Church, 67 Manchester Avenue, Maple, Clarendon, featuring Reverend Gotti Gotti, Orville Sutherland, Son G, Stagger Madonna, Lindsay, Leaning Heritage, and many others. MC Nadine Bray from Love 101, DJ Cheney on the turntable. Admission only $2,000 pre-sold, $3,000 at the gate. Children only $1,000. Tickets at Morris Fish and Jerk, Clarendon Park, Tate's Pharmacy, Main Street, Maple, Gibson's Petroleum, Manchester Avenue. Sponsored by Midway, Goldline Pharmacy, Reserve, Glory Cards, Morris Fish and Jerk, Archie Infinite Services, Garden Road, the Justice Suit.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch. The topic is, in Jamaica, is there a fear of, or do we just don't care for marriage? Our guest is Dr. Barrington Davidson, often called Dr. Barry Davidson, Chief Executive Officer, Family Life Ministries, marriage and family therapist. Dr. Davidson, just before the break, sir, you were indicating to us that about 30% of the persons who you do premarital counseling with, which you indicated that you now call pre-engagement counseling, about 30% of those persons do not go on to getting married. Dr.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yes. I want to shift a little bit, though, Dr. Davidson, in terms of, well, you did make reference to the Holy Scriptures, the Bible, before the break. Now, in the Old Testament, you see polygamous marriages, and in the New Testament, monogamous marriages became the holy standard. In fact, adultery is a sin. Any comments in terms of the shift from polygamy to monogamy? And have you had challenges with persons saying, well, what you're calling marriage now is not what we want. We want an open marriage, or we want something other than the current standard based on the laws of Jamaica, based on Christian tradition. Any comments, Dr. Davidson?
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt about it that in the Old Testament we see quite a number of polygamous marriages. But if you really examine them carefully and read it, you will recognize that every single one, everyone, had major problems. And so it was never God's ideal, never God's standard.
Oh, Dr. Davidson, I'm going to ask to pause for a moment. Are you including King Solomon, who was the wisest man on earth?
The wisest man on earth also commented on his own lifestyle and really didn't say positive things about it at all. He says it's vanity and vexation of spirit. He really, what he did for us is make us convinced that that was not the way to go, you know. And that's the beautiful thing about the Bible. The Bible doesn't hide from us failures and faults. It helps us to see both sides and to be able to see exactly the right way to go, and which is what the New Testament was able to do as well.
Yes.
So Solomon's life was horrible, and he himself speak about it as horrible. You know, with all his wisdom and so on, he really ended up living a very horrible and miserable life.
Interesting.
But at the end, came conscious to the fact that moving away, and that's why through Proverbs, he gives such good advice to young people and to others about relationship. Why he was able to give advice out of the many mistakes he made. And that's what makes the Proverbs such a powerful book.
You know, I want to also look at this other thing, which is very much a part of Jamaican culture, common law relationships. In fact, common law relationships, once a single man is living with a single woman for 5 years continuously, that can now qualify legally as a common law union. No, sir, yeah. They can now be legal spouses. So, sir, do you think the prevalence of common law relationships has influenced persons to not get married, or is that a wrong assumption?
Common law relationship exists because of the high rate of, again, children being born out of wedlock. You know, it is the result of that. What has happened though, we need to understand something about common law relationship. Most people living in common law relationship would like to legalize it, would like to get married. And unfortunately, many church pastors and so on who work with people living in common law relationship don't understand that although they have been living in a common law relationship for many, many years, when they talk about marriage, they really also need to go through premarital or pre-engagement, whatever you want to call it, counseling.
Yes.
And I tell you why. Let's say a couple, we've seen in Jamaica couples living in common law relationship for 15 years, for 20 years, for 25 years, and then they decide to get married. And quite often the guys decide to get married because their children said, listen, my parents, we want to formalize it. We want to take it to another level. And the children are the ones who plan the wedding because in Jamaica you don't really think of marriage without a wedding, and people don't think it is a good marriage unless you have a wedding. Yeah. And so the children now who are in a position to assist their parents, and they organize another wedding. And we have seen where a number of these folks they've been living together for 20, 25 years, they get married, and within 1 year after marriage, they break up.
Within what? Within 1 year?
Within 1 to 2 years, they break up.
Why?
And that's what I'm coming to now. What happens is that the assumption was made that because they've been living together for all this, they know each other and they are going to do well. That's not true. What happens quite often is that they have been living together. Most cases, the woman, for instance, might be the one who is going to church, and she's always, for her, there is a dichotomy between her church life and her family life, and so she really would like to put an end to this dichotomy. And in order to appease and please her partner, she does things and she behaves in ways that is going to make him happy. Now they get married and she said, hey, I have no wife. I'm not going to put up with the rubbish and foolishness that I would put up with before we got married. I need you to treat me as a wife, because in her mind, a wife, the standard of a wife and the way a wife must be treated is much higher than how a common law person should be treated.
I see.
And so she changes on him. Yeah. And he says, I don't understand you.
You have changed on me, yeah.
Yeah, you changed. And so all kinds of problems exist after that. So what we have recognized, we have recognized the need to take these people, take through counseling, because and help them to understand that their expectations in marriage could be unrealistic, and help them to have a realistic expectation when they get married, so that they don't end up with great disappointment in that they're not achieving what they think they should now that they're married. And we have found that by working with couples in a living in common law relationship who are now getting married and taking them through the process of counseling, we have seen a dramatic change in terms of them being able to stay married. But this is a mistake many pastors are making. They are just quickly marrying them because they say they're ready to get married, without counseling them and without helping them to have realistic expectations in getting into marriage.
And without getting into too much detail, Dr. Davison, because this is morning radio, the kinds of things that the woman would have done prior to the marriage, when they were in a common law relationship before, and these are the things that you said the woman would have done which are compromising to her. These are the things that she would have done, for instance, in the bedroom, sir?
Well, you remember I started out by telling you that marriage is about giving.
Yeah.
What was happening and what happens is that she was the one who was always giving, always forgiving, always putting up with things that really and truly she didn't have to.
Yeah.
She was, in terms of tolerance, her tolerance level was extremely high. Now that she is married, she's saying, wait, shouldn't I be treated equally? Shouldn't I be treated nicely as well? Shouldn't I be treated And so our expectations of what it means to be a wife is now coming into the picture. And she sees that I'm not really, I'm giving, and I've been giving all this time. Where is the getting for me? And that's where a lot of the problems start, the marriage starts.
I ask because, you see, if she was living with him before the wedding or before the marriage, she would likely have been obviously engaging in conjugal relationships with the gentleman.
Oh yeah, she was. Of course, she was doing that, and that's the reason, especially for a church lady.
Yeah,
she wants to be able to say, yes, I'm doing this now in the context in which God approves. So that's something that she is really excited and happy about, right? That she is now doing it. The Bible says in that last two verse of Genesis chapter 2. It says, and they were naked and not ashamed. Yeah. And she said, finally, I'm no longer ashamed. Finally, I don't have to feel ashamed, and that part, and so this dichotomy now between family life and church life, now she's saying, whoa, I've been able to resolve that one.
Dr. Davison, you have authored a book that was launched earlier this week, just Monday gone. Entitled Before They Say I Do. Tell us about that. In fact, maybe you've already told us about the book just based on all that you have said so far in this interview. But tell us about the book, sir.
Well, the book really is a book that is helping counselors, marriage officers how to counsel and what to counsel with, what to counsel their people who are planning to get married, people who are engaging, and so on. And so the book is based on several things. One, we believe that before people get married, they're wearing a mask. There's a male mask relating to a female mask. Then when they get married, the mask comes off. And the real male says, I didn't bargain for you, I bargained for the female mask. And the real female says, I didn't bargain for you either, I bargained for the male mask.
And so Dr. Davison, Dr. Davison,
major crisis.
Dr. Davison,
that's problem. So the book is helping you to unmask couples who you're working with.
And Dr. Davison,
so that's one aspect of it.
I want to ask you this, sir. Can that mask be worn by both parties, the male and the female, even while they're in a common law relationship?
It is one. The mask is usually stronger with one than the other, but it's quite often worn by both.
I see.
Definitely.
All right.
And that's that's what puzzles people, because they can't understand why somebody could have been wearing a mask for so long in a common law relationship, but they do. They do. And that's why we talk so much about the importance of dealing with expectations, because their expectation in a common law is different from the expectation
in a marriage.
It should happen in marriage.
Yes.
So the unmasking is very important. So what we're doing, we train people. The book is helping you to know how to unmask. Let me give you an example.
Yes, please.
I have permission to do this, so I can give you this example. I worked with a couple once. The man was 50 years old. The lady was 30. The man had only recently become a Christian and was in the church for only 1 year. So 49 years of his life he was out of the church. During the premarital counseling, the premarital questionnaire has 99 questions. And one of the questions was, how many children do you have? The man indicated none. The woman indicated none. However, I didn't believe. Remember, now I do unmasking. I didn't believe this man that he had none. I couldn't understand how a Jamaican man for 49 years, not a Christian, had no children, and wasn't gay, because we also discussed all that aspect as well. So I said to him, I said to the man, have you told her about the 5 children you have? He said, no, son, I have 3. The same man who wrote none, no, when I said what I said, have you told her about the 5 children you have? He said, no, son, I have 3.
It's 3, yes.
She was shocked because she thought he had none. But here we now unmasking him and find out that he has 3. So I said to him, how then could you have written none when you have three? He said, Dr. Davidson, I'm disappointed in you. I'm ashamed of you. He said that everybody say you're a Christian. Don't you know what the Bible says? Therefore, if any man be in Christ is a new creature. All things that passed away, behold, everything become new. He said, Dr. Davidson is the old man who has the three.
Not
the
the new
one.
Dr. Davidson, we have to leave it there this morning. Thank you for that very interesting account you gave at the end there, sir. And of course, thank you for this interview. Very interesting, sir. Thank you for your time and for your thoughts.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Joined by Gem Bank is
7:31.
February 50 sales event at Home Things is here. Take $5 off every $50 you spend. Save big on the brands you know and trust, from beautiful Spanish and Brazilian tiles to exquisite bathroom fixtures and faucets from Corona, Moen, and other top brands. Check out stylish doors, windows, paints, and home decor that inspire beauty and elegance. It's the February 50 sales event happening now. Old Hope Road and Hudson Spring Road.
Jamaica's gangs are like packs of rats. They live in filth and try and drag us all in there with rats, spreading the disease of violence and corruption everywhere. But like a pack of rats, they can be eliminated. Rats with your help. If you have information on gangs, call Crime Stop on 311. This message is brought to you by Crime Stop and their marketing partners, Lime and NCB.
Are you looking for modern faucets to transform your home or commercial property? Then Home Faucets is your place to be. We are located at Shop 42 in East Mall, Caledonia Road, Mandeville, Manchester. We also provide free island-wide next-day delivery. Contact us on Instagram at Home of Faucets, by telephone at 876-492-4810 or homeoffaucets.com. Home of Faucets, contributing to modern satisfaction.
King of the light, we've been here for 25 years and we are
Unite.
just getting started. Leading the way every day, protecting you and yours at every stage.
Unite.
Looking at the light, caring for family, caring for you. Looking at the light that's far away too.
For every generation, for every stage, your partner for 25 years. Guardian Life.
Looking at the light.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have here in Loop, Jamaica news, firefighters battling massive blaze at warehouse in Savlamar. This story from 11 hours ago in Loop Jamaica News Online. We have in the Jamaica Gleaner 48-hour curfew imposed in sections of Cassava Peace, Whitehall, and Rock Hall. And in the Observer, no recession. October to December quarter declines 1.8%, but PIOJ says GDP mainly rattled by seasonal adjustments stemming from adverse weather-related events. This story by Claire Miles, business reporter at the Jamaica Observer. Coming up next, we'll read for some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, which do you prefer and why? A hard copy Bible or the electronic version? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-9973-125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
My amazing son on his wedding day, my heart is full of joy for you. I wish you a lifetime of happiness and a house full of love. Oh, and some kids would be nice. Your mommy will be the kindest, loveliest granny there ever was. Love always, Daddy. You promised Jim I'd read this to you one day, and here we are.
Thanks, Mommy. Your love lives on with life insurance from Sagicor. Talk to an advisor today.
Don't let freshness stitch you when you need it the most. Wash your clothes with Downy Softener to keep dazzling everyone around you from day to night. Try Downy Softener now.
Life can feel overwhelming at times, but you don't have to face it alone. The Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church is here to support you with our caring and confidential telephone counseling service. Whatever you're going through, grief, stress, family challenges, or just feeling stuck, our trained counselors are ready to listen, pray, and guide you toward hope and healing. Take the first step today. Call us at 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Help is available through the Prayer and Counseling Ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Remember, help is just a phone call away. That's 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Call now and let us walk this journey with you.
Happy because you pop straight.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Now for responses to our social media question, which do you prefer and why? A hard copy Bible or the electronic version? Jakal.
All right, so first up we have here from Carly Nelson. She said, give me a hard copy, please. Sharon Spanish Town says, good morning, everyone. I prefer the hard copy as I prefer the hands-on. But if it is a must for the audio, I can adjust. Dion from Dublin Castle sent a voice note. Let's hear from her.
None is as good as the original Bible because so many times I try to use my device with that Bible. Nothing would come up, sometimes shut down. That the system is not equipped for nothing. There are times even when you try to use that computer to do other things, you have to be standing waiting for it to pick up or for it to download or things like that. We are getting rid of the old modern these things for computer now and things like that, which is definitely failing us at times. Nothing but the original.
All right, that one was from Dion in Dublin Castle. Faith from Washington Garden says, good morning, I need the hard copy. I need to highlight and mark when I read. So those are the responses that we have.
Thank you very much for those comments, Jakal. We move right into the second watch. Although more and more United States of America citizens define themselves as secular, the demand for the book of books, the Bible itself, is increasing. So says an article found in the latest edition of Freedom Come Reign. And why is that so? Why is it that, well, what is it about the Bible that, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, still makes it the best-selling book of all time and the most translated book in history? The British and Foreign Bible Society estimates that 5 to 7 billion copies have been printed since the Bible's contents were standardized around 1,500 years ago. It is the most influential book in Western civilization. In the USA, sales of the Bible increased from 9.7 million in 2019 to 14.2 million in 2023 and reached 13.7 million up to the first 10 months of last year, 2024. What are the sales like in Jamaica, the land of the most churches per square mile? Well, we have as guest today to discuss this Courtney Stewart. Mr. Stewart is the General Secretary of the Bible Society of the West Indies. We also have Reverend Bertrand Gale, an Anglican priest, Diocese of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. Reverend Gale, Mr. Stewart, good morning. Mr. Stewart? Do we have any of them at the moment? Do we have Mr. Reverend Gale? Reverend Gale, we have you so far. Good morning, sir. Yes, sir. In terms of why, if more and more U.S. citizens define themselves as secular, yet the demand for the Bible is increasing, do you find this an anomaly? Do you find it odd or strange? Any comments?
Well, not necessarily. People read the Bible or purchase the Bible for all sorts of reasons. For one, it's a very important literary text that people can still appreciate, even if it is that they do not embrace theological claims surrounding the scriptures. So that, I suspect, is one of the reasons. And then it could be that there's a growing interest among those who have strong theological claims about the scriptures. That may be, as I said, one of the reasons. But I'm not surprised at all, because, as I said, the scriptures have significant theological implications for some people, and for some people, for others, it's an important literary text. And therefore, purchasing it may not suggest that they have embraced anything spiritual in relation to the scriptures, but see it simply as a text that is worth studying. After all, the Bible has had a very important impact on the development of the English language itself.
Interesting. Courtney Stewart, you're with us now, General Secretary of the Bible Society of the West Indies.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. Any thoughts on why, if it is true that more Americans are calling themselves secular, how comes or why is it that there's an increased demand for the Bible and so sales have been increasing in that country?
I suspect that perhaps one of the reasons why the situation is like that, as we have reported, is that the Bible also speaks to people at a very deep level. It speaks of hope in times of uncertainty. It speaks of comfort in times of fear. It speaks to us at a level that perhaps no other book speaks to us at. And so people are gravitating to it because of the external environment and the external shocks that are impacting on them. And they need to have a sense of hope that this is not all that there is, or things will get better. So that could also be a reason. And the fact that in so many ways the Bible is around us, in that it has affected our laws in the Western world at least. It has helped to shape our morality, though that is being challenged on many fronts. But there is something about the Bible, about God speaking to us at a level that no other book speaks to us at.
Yes.
That stirs the interest and stirs the mind to know more and to seek to understand why. And so Bible says, the fact that Bible says is going up is really not surprising to those of us in the Bible world, because there is a hunger for the word of God. The churches are growing, especially in the South. Bible distribution is up, especially in the South. Not so much in Western Europe and North America, although you are now indicating that it's going up in North America. But yeah, not surprising at all.
So when you say the South, you mean countries such as
the global South? The
global South, yes.
Yeah.
You mean
in Africa, in parts of India, certainly in China, the demand is growing. Yes, in Latin America, absolutely.
Hold that thought for a moment, for a moment, sir, because I gather we're upon a break already. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back at the Morning Watch.
Time is running out. This is your chance to level up. Register now for the CC June 2025 exams with the Overseas Examinations Commission. The deadline is February 21, 2025. No delays, no excuse, just success. Visit www.overseasexams.org.jm to register. Call 876-618-3721 or email help@overseasexams.org.jm. Follow us at Overseas Exams on social media. The Overseas Examinations Commission, Jamaica's Examinations Hub.
Mama work hard, for real. He be the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 joint bank savings plan, you know. Further my education, and I make mama proud.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are on the second watch, and the topic is The Bible is Still the Book for Me. Our guests are Courtney Stewart, General Secretary, Bible Society of the West Indies, and Reverend Bertram Gale, Anglican priest, Diocese of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. Just before the break, Mr. Stewart, you were outlining to us some of the reasons you believe have led to an increase in the sales of the Bible. And in fact, you seem to be looking at it globally, not just in the United States. You made mention of the global South, parts of, India and parts of China and Africa, where there have been more persons turning to Christianity and as a consequence would be requiring the Holy Scriptures. What is it about the Bible, though, that according to the Guinness Book of World Records still makes it the best-selling book of all time and the most translated book in history? Mr. Stewart, for some of the similar reasons you pointed to earlier in terms of the increased usage in the global South?
Absolutely. And remember that you take a continent like Africa, for example.
Yes.
Where there are so many languages, apart from the fact that there are 54 countries in Africa, the number of languages requires that, and people are turning to God, requires that the scriptures be translated into those languages, those tongues.
Yes.
Because the scriptures make their greatest impact on people when they have it in their own language, in their mother tongue. And we have translated the scriptures, the New Testament, into Jamaican for that very same reason. And Father Bertram coordinated that project for us here in Jamaica. But all over the world, there are translation projects going on because the world is a linguistically diverse and very rich cultural space that requires that with a multiplicity of languages.
Interesting, although many persons are fluent in speaking the Jamaican language or patois orally, but probably can't read some of the words when they see them on paper because it might not be as easy to read as it is to speak it, but that's probably another conversation. There are many versions of the Bible. How does one decide which one to purchase? Because you have the King James, the New King James, the NIV, various versions, and sometimes the Amplified. And sometimes when you're in a store or in a location where they're selling Bibles, you're wondering, which one should I really buy? Does it really matter at the end of the day? And then you have persons who will preach from the pulpit who will express a preference. So in some churches, they prefer the NIV. In some churches, they prefer the King James. Reverend Gale, any thoughts?
It depends on what you're looking for. In addition to what is your church's tradition. Some people grew up on, for example, the the King James Version, and it is the preferred version of many churches. So people would more than likely choose the King James, being that it is the one that is going to be used in their worship spaces. And they don't really want to feel odd or left out when they are doing the communal reading of the text. But if it is that one wishes to engage the Bible at different levels, that would help to determine what version of the Bible you choose, what versions. So a preacher, for example, I would, well, at least as far as I'm concerned, to be helpful for a preacher to not stick to one translation, but to have several translations. Especially if it is that they're not working.
I was speaking of versions, not necessarily translations, but continue.
Yeah, but version translation is the same thing.
Okay.
Version translations.
So translation for you, does it mean translation from, say, English to French?
English to French, Greek to English, Greek to Jamaican Creole or Patois. Once it is not in the original language and you're rendering it in another language, I would consider that a translation.
Understood. Well, in terms of versions, I was speaking, when I was prefacing what I meant by versions, I was speaking of maybe King James, NIV.
Yeah, man. So King James is a translation of the Greek,
Yes, I don't think many of us know that or remember that, but continue, Reverend.
Yeah, so versions are translations are versions, or different renderings of the original. Though you do have some English translations that are reworking of other English translations.
Well,
it is. Go ahead.
No, that's right. I thought you were through, because I have seen where you have some versions of the Bible which appear to be, as you put it, English reworkings of other English versions of the Bible. So, and you will even see where you'll go into a location, maybe a church conference, and you'll see a Bible where on the front of it speaks to women. And then you'll see another version that has something else on the front, which seems to sort of cater to or is specific to a particular target audience. Any thoughts on that, Reverend Gale? Because we see quite a bit of that these days as well.
Oh, yes. So this is a translation. For example, you can have a King James version, and you can have a King James version study Bible for women. You can have the same study notes attached to the NIV.
I see.
So again, there are sort of different questions. It's that you are looking at the text itself of Scripture, and you're not interested in how it can be interpreted or applied to women or men or leaders or whomever. If it is that you're looking at what you would find in the original Greek or Hebrew, Aramaic rendered into English or some other language, if it is that you're looking for that, it's sort of a different question, as opposed to if you're looking for a Bible that helps you to interpret it through the lens of a particular perspective, like men or women or leaders, and the like. So it becomes more complicated with the business of doing translation. And yes, to some extent, perhaps I want to add to what Reverend Courtney said. Translation, people are looking for meaning and hope and all of these things. But we also bear in mind that translation, to some extent, is also a business. So people create ways of making the scriptures more interesting, and more than likely, many people who have several translations of the scripture, several Bibles in their home, one for leadership, one for women, one for youth, and the like.
Reverend Gale, I'm glad you mentioned the business aspect, because it is something that has come to my mind on several occasions. Is part of this just about a business? But Alas, you have raised it, sir. Mr. Stewart, I want to raise this with you. In terms of sales of the Bible in Jamaica, any numbers that you can share with us? Any metrics?
I don't know, because there are a lot of bookstores. There's pretty much all bookstores, they sell Bibles.
Yes.
So we don't have any comprehensive data concerning how many scriptures are distributed. Also, there are groups, church groups and ministry groups that import scriptures for their own distribution without necessarily going to a bookstore here in Jamaica.
Yes, so you're not seeing any numbers.
Right. So it's a bit of a challenge to be able to indicate exactly how many scriptures are distributed. And when I say, Bibles or New Testament or scriptures in general, it's very hard to come up with a figure concerning that.
And do you have anything to share with us in terms of the persons who are buying the physical copy of the Bible versus maybe just downloading an online version?
Right. There is a place for both. Let me just start off by saying that. Now, you find that many younger people will prefer having the scriptures on a device, which they can access anytime. So a device meaning whether they're laptops or their phones or whatever device, tablets or so. And it makes it easy because it's more portable, it fits in their pocket, and on that one device, they may have a number of translations. In fact, in various languages, if they so desire. Whereas when you have a hard copy, when you have a book, it's essentially maybe one language, and depending on the kind of Bible, whether it's a study Bible, it can be quite big and quite heavy.
Yes.
So there's a place for all of that. One of the things that I say to people is that having it on a device gives you access to the scripture. Having a hard copy gives you ownership. And the advantage of having a hard copy, as one of the persons commented earlier, is that you can mark it, you can highlight it.
Yes.
You have a visual recollection of where that passage fits on, which side of the page it's at, what location on the page. And it gives you a sense of nearness, of accessibility. And naturally, too, with a device, if it needs to be charged, the battery runs out, then it becomes a little bit problematic there until you get it recharged. So there is a place. And those persons who prefer having a hard copy, wonderful. And I say those persons who wish to have it on a device, as long as you have a power bank or your device is fully charged and so on, then that's fine too. So I don't know that it has to be an either or. It's really a both and.
Understood.
From my perspective.
Almost out of time already on the morning watch. Any final word you want to leave with us, starting with you, Reverend Gill, and then Mr. Stewart. Reverend Gill?
Yes, my word is perhaps a word of challenge for persons to expand their exposure to versions or translations of the scriptures. I know we have, as I said earlier, our preferred versions, but it's good to read the scriptures in another version to see another way of translating the text and perhaps other perspective on the translation itself, because translators do have to make sometimes very important choices.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stewart?
I would like to support what Father Gale has said, but also say that the importance of the Bible is not necessarily having it. It is reading it, listening to it, hearing what it is saying. Many people like to have a Bible.
And living it.
And living it. Absolutely.
Have to leave
so
it there
that
this
to me
morning.
is the critical thing.
Have
It's
to
not
leave it
just
there this
having it.
morning. Have to leave it there this morning, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Stewart and Reverend Gill. Thank you so much for your
You're
time
very welcome.
this morning. Indeed, very interesting conversation. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again next week as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Of course, visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page, and now TikTok at Love 101 FM Jamaica for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. And of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to the family station that is Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guest, Join Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint. Next week, as he continues to look at the issues of the day, I am Stokeley Marshall. Hand you back, Love in the Morning with Chaka.